So we had the two crossover sections, and now we finally get to the last part of the four-part CW crossover, superhero crossover, Invasion, Season 2, Episode 7 of Legends of Tomorrow. And this episode really gives the Dominators a cool background story. It explains why they're here, and it's actually the fault of some of the legends and some of the members of this team that was fighting the aliens in the modern day. It's actually their fault that the Dominators even came back for the invasion. So we see the backdrop. We see that Commander Steel, Nate Hayward, Vixen, and Mick, and Cisco, and Felicity all go to the past to kidnap an alien to figure out why they were there to invade. They end up getting captured themselves by a secret government organization as well as the alien. They figure out why the aliens are there. It's to assess the metahuman threats. And in the end, they end up breaking the alien out and saving him from this organization as well. But we also figure out in this scene that right after that scene that the reason the Dominators came back is because they saw the metahuman powers of Commander Steel and Vixen and all of them who broke out him 54 years ago, and so now they're back because they believe that Earth was a threat to them. And so we get this cool story where we get Cisco sort of thinking, oh man, Barry changed the timeline, he killed my brother, but now Cisco realizes that he was one of the reasons the Dominators came. We figured out also that the aliens made a tentative peace treaty with Earth as long as nobody changed the timeline or did something insane with their metahuman powers, the aliens would stay away from Earth. But of course, Barry Allen changed the course of history, the history of the whole entire universe. And so the Dominators came back to get revenge. They wanted Barry Allen. So we see them, their reasoning and explain. It's really cool because the Dominators are sort of a faceless group of villains before this episode, and it's nice that they got some characterization. But that whole fight scene in the 1940s and them breaking out was very entertaining. We also got to see some cool dynamic between Mick and the other characters. I love his reaction to Nate's outfit. He says, "You look like a star-spangled idiot." It's just hilarious. Mick's definitely one of the highlights of the show. And then in the modern time, and in the present, they all fight off the aliens by placing trackers, and the majority of them, the Flash and Supergirl do, while the rest of the team's holding them at bay. And basically they turn on the devices, and it makes all the aliens be in intense pain, and so the Dominators decide to leave. At the same time, Sarah and Heatwave are trying to stop the giant metabomb that's going to kill all the metahumans and some humans from falling, and we see this cool transformation of that the Firestorm uses to transform the ball into water, into harmless water. And of course, after all this is said and done, the Dominators basically give up. They flee. They realize that they basically overthought, not overthought their plans, but underestimated the abilities of all of these heroes on Earth. And then there's this cool scene where they all get recognized by the new president, and the old commander of that secret agency loses his position, is going to be shipped off to the Antarctic, and there's all this cool chemistry and camaraderie between the team talking, and a lot of plot points are resolved, and we get to see, of course, the awesome trinity of the CW, Barry, Kara, and Oliver all have this awesome moment there at the end of the episode. So, all of this episode was phenomenal. The action was great. The acting was great. It was a fitting conclusion to the series, and it sort of resolved the whole entire Barry Allen timeline conflict as well, which was nice that it tied it up in a nice bow. The side plot even worked in this episode too, as we saw Stein meet his daughter, who was an aberration basically, for the first time, and we realized that Stein doesn't want to lose his daughter because maybe this aberration's a good thing. So that little conflict was nice and emotional, and it was cool to see Stein and sort of Caitlin have their moments together, and Stein and his daughter. And I'm sure that'll be explored more in Legends of Tomorrow. But this episode is phenomenal. It was a great fitting way to end the four-part crossover. The crossover really worked this year, and I really think everybody worked their hearts, or showed their hearts, and their true acting skills, and put all their minds together to come up with this phenomenal crossover, and I really think it was great for the CW to do this, and hopefully the shows will have more awesome crossovers like this in the future. So it was definitely a great episode. I have to give it a 9.5 out of 10 just because how fun and the finality of it, and how they still kept it fun and interesting, and how some of the fight scenes were the most cool fight scenes I've ever seen on television. And sort of the Dominators backstory being explained definitely helped this crossover as a whole. So I'd have to give this episode of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Season 2, Episode 7, the last part of the 4-part crossover, or 3-part rather, because Supergirl doesn't really count, a 9.5 out of 10.